Hello, everyone. I'm Dani Passos, as you know, developer relations at Hashnode. It's a pleasure to have you guys here with us today. I'm super excited to welcome you to our workshop together with Brandon and Braden. We are here to get you ready and gear you up for the Outerbase Hackathon and to teach you all the best tricks and tips and tricks on how to build with Outerbase. So throughout the month of September, you have the opportunity to learn how to view, update, and visualize your data in a collaborative way without needing to be a database expert or anything like it. So we also have super exciting prizes up for grabs, starting with the main prize and main award. The winner will receive a grand prize of $5,000. And we also have 6 runner-ups where each one will take home $1,000. Today we have put together this exciting workshop, and joining me today are Brandon and Braden. I'll pass the mic to you guys so you can give us a quick intro and get things kicked off and ready to build. Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, thanks, Danny. Yeah, really excited to be hosting this hackathon with Hashnode. It's been a lot of fun. I hope you all have had some fun as well. And if you haven't checked it out, really excited to give you a kind of high-level overview of what Outerbase does today. I'm Brandon. I'm the CEO and co-founder, and this is Braden.
Hi, nice to meet you guys.
So yeah, we're going to go through a quick walkthrough of what Outerbase does and what you can do in Outerbase today. So we're going to start out with, let me share my screen here. It's always fun figuring out a new sharing experience. So 1 second. All right, I think my window's being shared. Should be good. Good. You can see it. Okay, awesome. So in this demo, I'm going to show you all a few things. So first off, I want to show you what Outerbase can do. I want to show you how you can help manage your data, how you can connect to a database or create a new database. And then additionally, I want to show you a kind of a database we'd already put together and an app that we can build on top of that. So first off, let's look at the connection flow. And so you can connect to a Postgres or MySQL database today. If you upgrade, we have some other kind of OLAP analytical databases as well. But for the sake of the hackathon, most people are using Postgres or MySQL. But if you do decide to connect to that, it's really easy. You bring in, if you're using DigitalOcean or PlanetScale, Supabase, you would just bring in your connection details and plug them in here, test the connection, and make sure you whitelist our IPs here so that it can talk to your database, and then you're in. But you can also create a free database. And so it's as simple as giving your database a name. So, you could, whatever you want to call it, you could call it Hackathon, you could call it, your company name, give it a name, and you're in. You have an empty database to kind of get started. But however, for the sake of this demo and this walkthrough, I wanted to give you, we had pre-populated a database. And so what we have here is we have a car database. And so we can come in and we can look at, all of my rows, all of my data here. Let me show you kind of like what's going on with the actual data. So you can click in and then you can see, again, it's a pre-populated database. It's for a car sales company. And so they have a lot of database or a lot of cars in their actual inventory. But the problem is, maybe they don't have a customer facing website. Maybe they're doing it all manually and, they're kind of a little bit old school and people come in, but, they want to build out a website. So what I've done is I built out kind of a simple front end, and you can see kind of like what this could look like. So the front end is outside of Outerbase. I just put this together. I can share the template after the call if y'all are interested. But it's just your cars, and you can see where, my data might plug in once it's here. But now you might be asking, how can I populate that database? So what you can do is you actually build commands on top of Outerbase. And what commands are, they're simple HTTP requests that actually can get in and pull data from your database. And so my first one might be this, I think it's this really easy command. It's a GET request. And it's literally going to query my database for model, make, ID, price, image, and the thumbnail from the cars. And so I can copy this URL here. I can paste it in my browser, and I can see that's exactly what it's going to do. It's going to dump the JSON and return all that data. And so I'm going to go over to my code, and I can plug that in. I'll build out a fetch a request on the front end, and I can run that. And basically what it's going to do, you can see it auto populates my, my website with all of the cars. And it's, as simple as, again, making a simple select request, copying and pasting that, that fetch and bringing it into my actual front end here. And there's one other thing here I wanted to show you with the actual car details is you can make this a bit more dynamic as well. So I can come in and I can say, all right, let's say I'm a customer, right? I see all these cars I like, and I want to actually, I'm interested in buying one. Again, I know these car images don't quite match, right? This is not any sort of Toyota Highlander I've ever seen, but maybe I'm interested in this Highlander. So I can click request info, and I can, it asks me if I'm interested in, I just provide my info, and I'll just say Brandon@outerbase.com, and I'll click submit. And here, let me change my share. I want to share my Slack real quick so you can see what that actually did. Pull up my Slack. Window Slack. So here's my Slack channel. It actually, I built out a third-party Slack command to show you, that user is interested in purchasing a car. And it's again, this is really simple to do. Let me walk you back through the code and how that command works. So I'll share my screen here again. Go back into Outerbase, and I have this message command, and this one's a post request. And again, it's really simple. I ask for in my inputs, I ask for an email, and you can give it whatever, you can add a default variable in here. You don't have to if you don't want to. And then in my code down here, it's just a simple function. And so I don't think I explained this, but our actual commands are all built on top of WebAssembly. And that means you can write your commands in JavaScript. You can write them in Python. You can write them in TypeScript. We're going to be releasing Go and Rust support here very soon. Again, overall, just making this a really, really easy way, no matter what your preferred language of choice is, to write pretty complex queries and commands and kind of APIs on top of your database without having to be an expert. And so again, if you look at this, what it's doing is it's actually just writing a hook to my my Slack channel to actually let me know that the input here, the request body.email, is interested in purchasing that car. And again, that's a really high level version of what Outerbase can do when it comes to populating my data in my database. Let me show you one other thing here real quick while I'm in here. So let's do this real quick. Let's do something. So this is EZQL. EZQL is our natural language to SQL querying tool. And so maybe I'm not a SQL expert and I want to talk to my database. I want to ask a question. So I can say something like, how many cars do I have in my database? And I can run this and it'll return the query for me. So it'll select count from cars. I click run and it will return the results here, 240. So that's great. But like, what if I ask it a question? Again, this is AI. This is we're actually sitting on top of OpenAI here, and we're passing in. We do a bit of like a kind of a magic layer on top of it to make SQL function very, very like seamlessly. So it auto translate it. But I can ask it maybe questions that are a bit more kind of obscure, like what is the best car? And that's nonsensical, right? Like that's definitely up to interpretation. But it tries, right? It's like, oh, the best car is the one at the highest price. And so that might be what it thinks. But what we actually built out here is a data catalog. And so I can come in here and I can add an entry to this data catalog and I can say best car. And I can say it's a, I'm going to spell this right. I'm on the spot. All right, good. So I'm going to save this now. And now if I say best car, I can actually pull that up. So let me do a new conversation here. We actually have shortcuts. So you can just type in /new and it'll kick off a new conversation with EZQL. And now I can say, what is the best car? And what it's actually going to do is it is going to, oh, it didn't, let me refresh my schema real quick. It's always fun when this happens. But anyways, it would return from that SQL query. Again, there are other really nice things that we can do here as well. So as I write my queries, I can do, average car by price. I can run this and I can see this and I can actually create entire charts off of this too. So I can create a bar chart and my x-axis could be make ID and my y-axis could be price. And I can run this and actually see those return. And again, apologies for the error here. We are in beta, and so there has been a few different bugs, and I'm really thankful for our Discord community for helping us catch a lot of these. And apparently here's another one. We just pushed out a release right before this call, which, as you all know, that probably shouldn't have done that. But again, we will get on top of this. So again, high level overview of what Outerbase does. You can sit on top of your database, you can pull in your data, you can write queries, you can write functions or commands on top of that, and then see all that populate in the front end for your app. And then I'm going to pass it over to Braden to walk through kind of the flow of what if I want to build an internal app, right? That we built something customer facing here, but what if I wanted to make Outerbase simpler for my internal teams to interact with it?
Before passing on to Braden, we have a question here from the audience. So something that went over his head quickly. Did you write the SQL select statement manually, the one that you displayed it like in the very beginning of the section?
So yes, I think that one I did write manually. So it was probably one of the ones in the commands, or maybe one of my select from cars. And that one I did write manually, but you can just as easily use EZQL to generate those SQL statements.
Awesome. Okay. Braden, you ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay, here we go.
All right.
Over to you.
All right. So I'm going to show you guys today how to build plugins in Outerbase and what in the heck those actually mean for anyone too. So I'm going to go ahead and share my entire window. I'm going to get really gutsy with it here. And we'll go back into Outerbase. And so keying off of Brandon's example of having our own car dealership and an inventory here, this is how you would typically look at a database, as a spreadsheet-like view. But what Outerbase allows us to do is we have this idea of plugins, and there's two types of major plugins in Outerbase. There's a column plugin and a table plugin. A column plugin allows us to install something on a column in our table and change the way we interact with this data. So in this example, I have a column for image, and there's a lot of URLs here. Typically, I would need to copy this URL, open a new tab, and see what that image is. But that can be a little tiresome if you're trying to really quickly grok through all these images to find the right one. So what we allow you to do is to create a plugin. And I already have this plugin installed, but we'll go through adding a plugin here in a moment. I can add a plugin and click image preview. This is one I've created really quickly that just adds a view button on the right-hand side of the cell. I can click this button now, and really quickly, I'm able to now interact with my database in a way I haven't been able to interact with before. And so this is a really basic example. Imagine that these columns have language in a different language, and you want to translate it to something you can understand or someone on your team can understand really quickly. Or maybe there's JSON or Markdown in here, and you want to be able to view it in a way that's more prettified than what's shown in a database. Or one really cool example we had from our community, one of our community members, Trace, made a plugin where you can drag and drop an image from your computer into one of these cells. It will upload that image to a server and return with the URL that it's hosted at. And now all you had to do is drag and drop an image in here, and the cell automatically saves the value of where that's stored. So there's a lot of things you can do to make things a lot easier inside databases, particularly with column database or column plugins. The second type of plugin is the table plugin. A table plugin will take over the entire spreadsheet view that you see right here. And so at the top right, we have this drop down where we see table view. This is our default view. But let's say we want to make this a little bit more visually appealing to the salesman at this car dealership. And we want them to be able to view all the cars in a grid layout. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new plugin for this. At the bottom left, we have a marketplace. And if you click on that marketplace, you'll see two tabs right here. The first tab is Explore. We don't have anything in here yet. We're currently reviewing community-made plugins that we'll be displaying and featuring here. But for our purposes, we'll go to the custom plugins section. And this is where you can bring plugins and create plugins specifically for your workspace. And these are all private. So maybe you're creating a plugin that's really specific to your business or your personal needs. You don't want it to be out in the world. You would just create that plugin right here. So I'm going to click this. We're going to give it a name. We're going to say this is going to be our inventory gallery plugin. It's going to ask us for some code. I'll come right back to that. And going back there, like I said, there are two types of plugins, one for column and one for tables. This is going to be a table plugin, and it's going to ask us what information we need. I'm going to select table value, and what table value means, and we have some articles on what each of these mean in more depth. This is just going to give us essentially the data we saw on the spreadsheet, make it available to the plugin as well. If you're making something for the public marketplace, I would highly advise to keep this as minimal as possible, because we do show people how much information you're asking from them. And the more you ask about their database, the less likely they may be to install it. So that's what we need. We'll go to the code section over here now. So this is a piece of sample code. I'm going to put this up on our GitHub repo later today if you're curious about any of this. It's a web component. Web components are essentially JavaScript and HTML and CSS that don't require a compilation step or any build process or anything like that. It makes it really easy to develop them and add them anywhere on the web. There's a class in here, and there's a lot more articles in depth we can go into here, but to keep this really simple, this is our plugin table class, and there's going to be a button in this class we want to handle some custom logic with. It's going to show us the grid of all the cars. There's also going to be a button that we can click to mark that car as sold. And what we want to happen when we mark it as sold is we want to update the database and tell it that that car has now been sold, and then also send us a Slack message so everyone on the team can celebrate that I was able to sell a car. So this is the action here for when we click one of those sold or mark as sold buttons. It's just going to call a fetch request to one of our commands that we created inside Outerbase, and we're just sending the ID of that car. So I'm going to copy this code, put it in here. All you have to do is copy and paste the code into here. We'll create the plugin, and now we see that plugin has come up on our custom plugin section. So we can easily come back into here, into our dealership. I'll show you real quick what the code looks like for the command that we're going to trigger. It's going to do a SQL statement, update our inventory, mark it as is sold wherever we pass in the ID. And then the second node, after it completes that SQL statement, it will come down here. And similar to Brandon's example, it's going to send a Slack message as well. So going back to the table, previously at the top right, we only had table view available to us. But now that we've uploaded a new table plugin, we see that table plugin available here to install. This plus button shows us that we haven't installed it on this table yet, just only on our workspace. Clicking on this, we're going to see this configuration view. There are two major views in a table plugin. One, which is optional, and this one, is to configure the plugin. Maybe you need to ask your users for additional information for this plugin to actually work. If it's uploading assets to S3, for example, maybe you're asking the user for their S3 URL or credentials. Or for us and our purposes right now, we're just visualizing the table a little bit differently in this grid of cards. So we just need to know a little bit of information about what columns have what information. So for image, for example, I'm going to say our image column has the image, our title is this, our description is this, and our subtitle is this, perhaps. And I'll click save. And so now what it does is Outerbase feeds it the table information that you saw on the spreadsheet and allows us to visualize it in this way right now. And so we have that wonderful mark as sold button that I told you about and showed you in the code. I'm going to click this button, mark as sold. And what I would anticipate happen is I come over here and I see that Slack message, a car with ID of 240 has sold. I know it's less descriptive than we want, but for the purposes of this demo, hopefully it gets the point across. So we'll go back over. We can do some other actions in here too. You can really customize how you interact with these pieces of information. You can delete things, you can add things, you can do so much more to it. But if we go back over to our table view and we see ID 240 for our Buick Century, we can come over here. Is sold is now marked as true. And so we did all that through a plugin and a web component that was much easier to grok that information from than looking at a spreadsheet or having anyone on our sales team look at a spreadsheet. And so that's one of the beautiful things about plugins is just being able to allow people to build internal tools and experience their data and database in ways they weren't able to before. And one last thing to touch on outside of plugins is dashboards. We have ways for you to visualize your data in different ways. Brandon was kind of showing this in the queries tab, but you can also build this as a full dashboard of all the data and all the information you want from your database. And these are all powered by SQL. So you could write SQL statements to get the number of cars by make and graph that out, or the number of favorited cars by user. And there's so much more you could do with, I'm sure, your custom data sets that maybe not are applicable in these dashboard charts here, but something really interesting and cool to see. That's all I
Awesome.
got.
Okay. That was great, guys. Okay, I have a few questions here in the chat. Let me scroll up. Okay. Can we send the plain text query via the command from the front end and then get a response directly?
Yes. So if you're sending a plain text query like what you do in EZQL, via the command, you can create a command with a node that actually interacts with EZQL. And we'll put an example out in the public too. And you can ask it to either respond with the SQL statement or with the actual data of that. So you can ask it a natural language question and get the JSON response directly from that. You can most certainly do that via a command.
One more question. The column plugin seems like a presentation layer on the individual values. How about a summary or aggregation of information on multiple values?
Absolutely. So going back to that view, I don't know if you can recall when we were creating a new plugin and you're asking for the data that should be available to that plugin. For a column plugin, you can have it have access to just the cell value, which that particular plugin only had access to the cell value itself. You can also pass in the entire row information or the table information or more.
Nice. Let me see. Guys, if you have any more questions, please send them in the chat.
I can actually give a quick little demo too of how the that plain text question might work. I have an example of it returning. I put together a little front end that can show exactly. So again, you have a query endpoint here, and I can just say how many prescribers. And instead of returning the data, I just have it returning the SQL. But this is all powered via commands, and so you can see it's actually right here. It's spitting out the SQL that I would use to get my prescribers. But I just want to show an example. It does work. It's really easy to do that exact use case of passing in plain text, getting data out, whether that data is a SQL statement in this case or your actual data from your database. It's all doable.
That is awesome. Let's see. Give it a couple minutes. We also got a few questions on Hashnode's Discord channel, which I would like to address here quickly. First question was if you guys could build multiple projects during the hackathon. The answer is yes. So the more projects you build, the more categories you run for, the more chances you have to be one of the winners. Secondly, you can also build in teams. So if you have a friend or have a team of developers building with you, you can jump in and start building with Outerbase right away. Okay. Can you show how one can go about using a new base from scratch? Not sure about how to create tables in Outerbase. I was using my SQL, but quickly realized that I couldn't connect to it as of now.
Yeah, I can do that. I can give you a quick little demo on how I would connect to or create a database and start populating that with data. Here, let me pull back up my demo environment. 1 second. All right, so if I share this window, can you all see my screen again?
Yes, we can.
So when you sign up for Outerbase, you get option to connect a database or you can create a database. And so, yes, you're correct. Today, we don't support Microsoft SQL Server, but we are adding in support for that in the near future. We have it working in the dev environment. We just haven't committed to, sorry, it's something like we haven't committed to making that live yet. But I can come in and create a SQLite database. And this is, it's a very simple, very easy to build database. We manage it all for you. You come in and use it to kind of kick the tires and get a feel for what Outerbase does. So we'll call this demo DB. I'll create the base, and The one thing I will call out right now, we are currently working through some things with our table creation flow. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to create a table through a query. And to do that, what I would do is I would just actually basically copy and paste in a SQL statement to populate that. And I can generate here one real quick. So I think I have one on my desktop for creating kind of a quick demo DB. Give me 1 second to find that. In the meantime, yes, the goal would be to have the ability to, I mean, you can create a table, but populating a table, we're working through a couple minor tweaks on that right now, where it doesn't actually support, it doesn't support some of the row additions and some other things, some other niceties in like the structure. But here I found my SQL statement, so I'm going to copy and paste this in. And what you're going to see is this is a SQL statement to create a table of authors. It creates a table of books, and then it just inserts some authors in there, and then it inserts some books into my books. And then I'm just going to go in and I'll run the SQL statement, and it should run. Yeah, it ran in 0.2 seconds. I actually have to do a hard reload for this to come in, so I'm just going to come back. I'm going to refresh my screen here. I'm going to my demo DB, and there are my tables. And so it's as simple as that. I can come in, I have my data, I have my tables, and they're all in there. So just by using a query, you can populate your database. You can start fresh with SQLite and have something to work with.
Awesome. Any more questions from the audience, guys? Let's see.
Awesome. If you do have additional questions, we are in the Hashnode Discord, and we're in the Outerbase Discord as well. So please jump in and let us know. Again, we're around 24/7 to support you and make sure you find success in this hackathon.
That's awesome. I mean, the support you guys have been providing has been indeed really great, and I'm really happy for that. So, as Brendan said, if you guys have any more questions, join the Discord channel. Talk to us. We'll be available there for you guys and to answer any questions or help you guys out throughout the hackathon. And that brings us to the end of our workshop. Thank you guys for joining me, sharing the insights, the super incredible demos. And for those who are watching us, this is just the beginning. The Outerbase Hackathon still has 3 more weeks for you guys to keep rolling, get your projects ready, and we cannot wait to see all the projects, commands, and plugins that you guys are going to build. So let's continue exploring this, asking questions and super incredible questions as you guys share with us here today. And don't miss out on the chance to be one of the winners and create an impact in the Outerbase ecosystem. So thank you guys for joining me, and I'll see you guys in the Outerbase Discord channel.
Thanks, Danny. We'll see you all.
Yeah. See you guys.